And I've got two guests today. So hopefully you can see all of us on our little screens. I've got Kyle Mitchell. Kyle, can you raise your hand up? Yeah, there you go. And then I've got Jeremy Greene. These two guys are the Social Ninjas. They have a podcast called The Social Ninjas, which I love. By the way, I love that name. I'm a martial artist, so that's just the coolest name for your podcast. Both of these guys have broken free of severe social anxiety and now spend their lives helping others do the same. And I've had a chance to talk to them both off air, and they're really cool guys. So I'm going to read really quick. I'm going to read a bio, and then we'll get started. Okay. So Kyle is a mental health speaker, podcaster, advocate, and social media influencer. He's passionate about solving the problem of poor mental health in the world and the impact that mental health has on people, especially the youth. Couldn't fit in better with our mission. Has a business degree on focusing on marketing and management. Soon after graduating, he realized that his purpose in life is to help people understand what mental health is, why it's important, and why we all can do what we all can do to improve our own mental health and help others improve theirs. He's a member of NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illnesses, certified in ending the silence, speaker for NAMI, where he goes to schools and spreads his message about mental health, and resides in Indiana, loves to run Spartan races, travel, read, and spend time with his beautiful wife, Paulina, and their 3 kids. That's awesome. And Jeremy is a social coach, podcaster, and influencer, struggled with severe social anxiety while growing up, and I believe you said you were bullied, correct? I thought I heard that. Struggled with severe social anxiety while growing up, completed a degree in communications and psychology, and numerous other trainings, including a 10-day silent meditation and the Mankind Project. In the middle of his transformation, he was offered a gig interviewing celebrities on the red carpet, but he was terrified. He set out to practice by recording interviews with the general public, and this turned into Jeremy Talks to Strangers, which I think is so cool. I think we lost Jeremy. We're going to get Jeremy back. Jeremy did not like what I was saying about him.
He's like, I'm out of here.
It cut off. It's so funny. I think it's so perfect, like getting cut off. I think the old me would have been freaking out. Just, right?
Now you just roll with it, right?
And I was like, eh.
Yeah. But what I love is these guys made this their mission in life. They took something, and on our podcast, The Brain Warriors Way, we talk about constantly, notice we both have these martial arts sayings, right? You guys have the ninjas and we have the Brain Warriors Way. And so these guys talk about pain to purpose just like we do. And so I love this. And when I heard that, I'm like, I need to have these guys on my show. So thank you for being here. And let's get started. I want to know, I'm going to probably have to direct these questions so you guys are not trying to struggle over who's going to answer. But let's say, Kyle, tell us your number one goal for doing this. Why did you do this? What's your mission? Why are you wanting to help people with social anxiety?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously I have a heavy heart for people with social anxiety, but I think it's even further than that. And it's, expanded to like mental health in general. Mm-hmm. While I don't struggle with social anxiety like I used to, I still have to put in a daily practice to improve upon my mental health. So my kind of mission is to build a community of people that, one, know what mental health is, because I didn't know what that was growing up, and two, give them the tools to be able to take action with their own mental health, improve their own lives, and feel good about themselves and their mental health.
No, I love that. Maybe we should take a second. Jeremy, maybe you can answer this one. Tell our people listening, not everybody's super familiar with the term social anxiety. So what do you guys mean by social anxiety? What made you pick this? What do you mean by social anxiety? Why is this a big deal?
It's a big deal because connection is, or should I say lack thereof connection, research shows is one of the biggest causes of depression and anxiety in the world, just in like dissatisfaction in life in general. And so social anxiety, to get back to your question, is if you have severe anxiety that prevents you from being social in social situations. So social anxiety for me is, as I said earlier in the pre-live, is I couldn't go up to anybody. I couldn't, and I like to say, like one of my favorite quotes, as long as you're being authentic, you're never failing. Mm-hmm. And my social anxiety prevented me from being authentic, and that drove me crazy. I went through, parts of depression. I went through a lot of really challenging times.
Well, it's interesting because we're going through COVID right now, and depression has doubled in the UK. When quarantine first started, calls to the suicide hotline were up 1,000%. We have mental health clinics, and so obviously our lines have been slammed. And that's not necessarily a good thing for society. I'm glad that there are people like us helping. I'm glad that you guys are helping. You've got a podcast, but it's a hard time for people with social anxiety. They already are anxious. So now we're disconnected, and that's not an easy thing. Do you think that social anxiety is a big reason that you see or you hear about the youth, like teenagers, drinking and doing drugs? Do they think they're going to find a solution to social anxiety with substances?
Is this towards me or Kyle?
Yeah, I'll take her.
You froze, so I'm going to aim this one to Kyle.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's like the only reason, obviously, for doing drugs and alcohol and stuff. I don't even know if it's the main reason, but I would say that myself included, and what I've heard from a lot of other people is, by doing drugs and drinking alcohol, it can make you feel like, oh, that social anxiety is gone. Like I have no fear. What they call the liquid courage. So a lot of people say, I can drink a few beers and then I'm not socially anxious to go talk to girls and that type of thing. So yeah, I can understand that a little bit.
Yeah, I think where I got that, the reason I asked that question was Bradley Cooper did an interview, and he actually, The Star is Born, that movie was just amazing, but he actually had gone through a rehab program, even though everyone in his life said he wasn't an alcoholic. And he said the reason he did it was because he realized his social anxiety was so bad that he had to drink in order to feel comfortable in a crowd of people talking to people, like at a party. And when he realized that was a really bad sign. And so he didn't want to have that crutch. And so he wanted to learn how to get by without it. And that made me think, oh, I bet that's why a lot of kids are doing it. So my husband actually would say that, yes, a lot of kids with social anxiety do turn to substances. And I was just wondering if you guys had actually experienced that firsthand. I'm just curious because I've got teenagers in my house. And so I've got 3 teenagers. I'm just curious. You guys are really young. You're out there talking to people, and I'm just curious what you guys have seen with that. Have you seen anything like that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Kyle said, and I think that drugs and alcohol and substance abuse is a form of distracting yourself from actually dealing with those emotions and things you're insecure about, and actually processing old trauma, or even as you said, a crutch. And what I learned, which was really hard for me, is that being vulnerable, seeking help is a superpower. And I never forget the first time I actually processed all the anger that I had for my main bully in middle school, and how freeing / scary, but freeing it was. I felt so much more confident, and all like my old stories that were preventing me from showing up confidently and showing up as a leader and showing up in how I want to show up, and that's to be a powerhouse of self-love and authentic human connection.
I love that. No, that's really good. And did you freeze again? No, he's good. Okay, we're good. We had you freeze for a second, but you're good. Your voice was still on, even though you froze. We're good. So what are some tips? I want to ask each of you. So Kyle, you go first. What is a tip that someone could do today that will help them, someone who's struggling with social anxiety?
Yeah, so I'd say my first tip would be start small. I know a lot of people, like we talked a little bit about exposure therapy, and do something that scares you to kind of expose that anxiety in yourself. But if a big problem that I see is a lot of people try to go way too big, and it actually brings you down, and you're actually worse than where you started. So I think that's like my number one thing. That's what I try to tell, especially when I'm speaking in schools and stuff. Like, start small. Don't go try to do a public speaking gig for 100 people if like you're completely terrified. Like, start small just by just talking to one person. Or I know Jeremy does a little thing before he does his free hugs that he just goes and waves to 10 random people. Sorry, I didn't want to steal that from you, but I think that's a really good example of starting small. So yeah, that would be my tip.
Excellent. And how about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off what Kyle said. Start small, 1% better every day. Hear me? Okay, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And
you your face is frozen.
okay, cool. And then at the same time, be very compassionate towards yourself along the way is really important. And to forgive yourself as quickly as possible. And also, a really big one is my thoughts do not define me. And that's helped me so much. So if I have the thought that, I'm not good enough, no one likes me, which I had a lot of, I would fuse it together with who I am, and I would think that. So for me, it's separating those negative thoughts, just noticing them as an observer. So instead of I'm not good enough, is I have the thought that I'm not good enough. Separation. And then the next one would be I notice that I have the thought that I'm not good enough. And that separates it even more.
I love that. So again, I'm a martial artist. I love this ninja concept. And so we have an expression, there is no failing as long as you get up. So you can fall 1,000 times, and as long as you get up, all you did was learn a different way not to do it, right? So as long as you continue to get up, so never look at it like failure. If you walk into a social situation and you something didn't go the way you wanted to, you were embarrassed, you feel awkward and you leave, okay, just make sure you go back. That's the falling. Don't let it turn into a failure. The only way it's a failure is if you just stay down. And I love what you said about your thoughts, because we actually have an expression, killing the ants, automatic negative thoughts. So we kill the ants. They're automatic negative thoughts that come into your life. They ruin your day, because here's the truth. Your thoughts, you just said your thoughts don't define you. We actually agree, but we actually would say your thoughts lie to you. They lie a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Just because you have the thoughts, people don't like me, doesn't make it real. So we have a friend, Byron Katie, and she has, do you know who she is? Yes. Okay. I did her 9-day workshop. Talk about mind bending. That workshop will turn you inside out. Did you do it? Did you? Oh wait, Jeremy.
I haven't. I've tried. No, I've done a lot of her stuff though.
Oh, I highly recommend it, but you will not leave the same person. So I used to, my thing was I was just so hung up on thinking people cared, just being so afraid of this perfection, people had these expectations. No, they didn't. They're not even thinking about me, but I didn't see that. It's because so many women when they're young have this perfectionism thing that's just paralyzing. And so your thoughts lie, they lie a lot. And her questions will literally transform your life. Is it true? No. It's is it true? Can you know that it's true? No, I can't absolutely know that it's true that people don't like me, right? How do you feel when you have the thought? Frozen, anxious, all these things. Not free. Who would you be without the thought? Free, right? And then turn the thought around. People don't like me. You have to make it its opposite. People do like me. Well, that doesn't feel right at first, but give me 3 small examples of when people have liked you. If you can come up with 3 tiny examples, you crack the thought. Or then what's another one? I don't like other people. Maybe that's more it. Maybe you've been afraid of other people. But you just start cracking the thought, and it's just fun to play with it. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, whoa, okay, I just can't anymore. I can't think this thought anymore. It's too much work.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to piggyback of what you said as far as my brain doesn't want any change, and that includes positive change.
Yeah.
And for me, that's why those my thoughts lie to me, because it doesn't want me to grow in a positive way, because then I'm taking a risk. And our brains have not evolved since cavewoman days, in the sense of if I exit a cave and there's a saber-tooth tiger to my right and sunshine, rainbows, all my dreams coming true, all sorts of confidence to my right, if I pay attention to all of that amazingness, that saber-tooth tiger is going to get to me. So we're on this consistent fight or flight loop. So it takes work to be happy. It takes work to process the stuff.
Could not agree with what you said more. Human beings will choose what they know over the positive change almost every time. It takes a lot of work to make that decision not to do that, because they're more afraid of change than they are of, they're way more afraid to change than they are of staying the same, even if it's painful. So it's really interesting that we get stuck like that. We've got people asking, were you shamed in public or by a parent? Oh, were you shamed in public by a parent? I think a lot of us were shamed in public by a parent. My mom used to tell me, I'm going to pull your pants down and blister your butt right here.
I was shamed by my main bully a lot. Like him and I got in an argument, and instead of hashing it out with me, he decided to displace his own displeasures of his life and his identity issues he was having. Yeah. And he took it out on me. He spread rumors about me, spread rumors about my family. Whenever people would grab me by the neck and throw me to the floor and throw a half-empty bottle of Powerade at my head, and just make my life a very challenging time. And that really it took a toll on me. And I had an oldest brother who was living with autism, and he would beat me up because he was having a hard time. So there's all this displacement going on that I was taking on that story that was very unhealthy.
That'll shut you down. Yeah, if you don't have the tools to manage that, that'll shut you down.
And I took it personally. Like, I didn't know that they were having a challenge. It had nothing to do with me.
Yeah. What about you, Kyle? Do you remember when it started for you?
Yeah, I mean, I can say looking back now, pretty much struggled with it. Ever since I was a little kid, I didn't really have to fully face it until I transferred high schools. So I went to a completely new high school my sophomore year where I knew absolutely no one. So I didn't have a kind of a crutch or someone to kind of lean on. I was there all by myself, having to figure it out. That's really when it hit me hard, was sophomore year of high school for sure.
Yeah. Someone's asking an interesting question. So less about social anxiety, but I just want to answer it really quickly. Does brain damage happen in schizophrenia? Actually, interestingly, schizophrenia can look different on scans from different things. Lyme disease looks like schizophrenia. So things like infections can actually show up as schizophrenia. So I just wanted to answer that person really quickly. So if you have an infection, it can look like Lyme disease. If you have an infection, it can look like schizophrenia. There are, substances that can, possibly trigger those reactions. So I would say definitely talk to a professional. It's just really, really interesting. So don't suffer in silence is what I would say. And here's one that says, I actually can't, hold on. That's from another language. I wanted to read some of the questions. The pandemic has been a blessing to work through my shadow material. Let's see. The blessing has been a pandemic to work through my shadow material authentically in a safe, intensifying environment. The pandemic's actually, have you guys noticed this on your podcast talking to people? The pandemic for some people has been a blessing, as this person states, and for other people it has been a nightmare. Right? So I like being home. I don't really want to go out and deal with people, so I like it. But my 17-year-old daughter just about lost her mind. She's super social. So she just about went out of her gourd being stuck at home. So I think it really depends on how social you are, don't you?
It definitely depends on the person and how social you are. Like for us, it's been a blessing. I think that everything's framing, definitely. I think that it's allowed, everyone's home. So more people are open to being on our podcast and having this conversation. I notice friends and people I've met are more open to being vulnerable and opening up about their mental health. And we organize socials. I have actually been Zooming around the world.
That's awesome.
And I also think that what people aren't talking about is that the pandemic, since we're forced to be home and we're forced to almost go head on with the things their traumas and the stuff we weren't happy with in our lives and we were distracting ourselves with, we're forced to go head on with it. And people are putting the blame on the pandemic when a lot of it is just because they're having to sit with those stuff that they've been distracting themselves.
Really good point. One thing I love that Byron Katie said when I was in her training, she said, you could, if you put a prisoner in solitary confinement for a month, it's the worst punishment you can give them. They'll go crazy. They actually go crazy, right? They'll lose their minds. You put a prisoner in solitary, it's like the worst thing you can do to them. But if you do that same thing to a monk, it's the greatest gift you can give him. What's the difference, right? Why? What's the difference? The only difference, what's in here. That's it. It's like one controls their thoughts and the other one doesn't. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. That's such a fascinating thought, which means we have the ability to do it.
Yeah. I love to piggyback on what you said. I think I did a 10-day meditation retreat with called Vipassana meditation, silent retreat. And that's when I really saw that like my thoughts don't define me. I'd kind of like, I'd go back to just, it's all about being internally so satisfied where you don't need anything externally.
Yeah.
And just, and like also the really idea that Kyle and I agree with this is that my brain always has a positive intention. So creating a positive relationship with it is really important. Like if my brain is saying you're not good enough, no one likes you, most people, and I've done this in the past, are like, go away, leave me alone, when it's like, it has a positive intention. It's trying to keep me safe. So it's like, yo, thank you. But like, it's not helping how I want to show up.
Exactly. Have you noticed something similar to that, Kyle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just and kind of going back to the pandemic thing, and I think Jeremy's right a lot about it's just about the framing and kind of what you want to focus on. So I raised my hand when I said this has been a positive thing for me.
Yeah.
I mean, but I could also say that it was a negative if I had focused on, some of the stuff that, kind of sucked about it, not able to do the bowling league that I was supposed to do, and everything shut down. But instead, I choose to focus. Well, I get to chill at home with my 3 kids. Well, they might drive me crazy sometimes, but I know I get to see them all the time. I get to walk around the neighborhood with them, like stuff I never had time to do before. And now, I get to do those things. So that's what I just try to focus on with my brain. So this has been an awesome thing for me. And plus, I'm a little bit more introverted, so I don't need to be around people all the time. So, me being by myself in my house or just with the kids and my wife is, that's fine for me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I'm actually, I know I don't probably sound introverted, but I actually, I don't get my energy from being around people. I get my energy, I recharge being at home. So, but where your attention goes, where your energy goes, where your attention goes, your energy flows. So where you put your focus is where your energy is going to go, right? So I love what you guys are saying. Just because you have thoughts, just because you feel a certain way, just because things are going on doesn't make them necessarily true, or like that doesn't define you. And it's just such an important thing I think that people need to get, that people need to understand. Well, they don't need to, but it might be helpful.
They could. They can choose to.
I'm a trauma nurse. I want people to do stuff.
Right.
I want to make it happen. But no, it's really helpful to people to be able to just, take that in and understand that just because you have a thought doesn't make it true. But where you draw your attention matters.
Yeah.
Right.
Go
ahead, please.
Go ahead. I just want to touch up on if it's default to complain, and if anything changes, my brain freaks out with change, but change is the only consistent. So checking in and saying, all right, what's the opportunity here? What can I do? Over and asking yourself, what can I do now is important. I think there's this whole thing where I want to dwell in the past, or I want to freak out and come up with all sorts of conjure all the possibilities of what can happen in the future, and I miss out on so much of my life. And to tie that in with what's really important is gratitude. What are 3 good things that happened today to me? And just practice doing that. What are 3 amazing things that happened to me today? It can be anything as simple as I woke up to my cereal with nuts and fruit. Like it's practicing that mindset. It's more about the mindset than what the actual gratitude is, and that's important because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, like the first 2 months of quarantine were amazing. Like I actually enjoyed it. And then it started to get I had like things starting to stack, and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little stressed out. So I have a friend who's sort of a spiritual mentor to me. And so we made a commitment to keep each other accountable. And rather than just writing it down, because I do that a lot, I meditate, I pray, I do all these things. Instead of just doing that, it's like we're going to be accountable to actually sending each other a text every day of what we're grateful for. And there was something about that when I have to send it to someone. I don't know why. It was more powerful for me. So I absolutely 100% think people should focus on gratitude if they want to feel better fast. But if you feel like you need the next step, like maybe you need a little bump on that, try sharing it with someone. just try sharing it and see what happens. It's really powerful when you're sending it to each other and you're seeing what they're grateful for. And all of a sudden something gets in the way. I've got 3 kids in the house and all sorts of stuff going on, and I start to get irritated, and then her text comes in and I'm like, well, how can I be irritated now? Like, it's really interesting, right? When someone's sending you their gratitude list to focus on something negative. It was cool. It was just a really cool thing.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one last thing.
Accountability.
What do you guys think? Oh, no, I was just saying, what do you guys think about diaphragmatic breathing? Do you use that at all?
I've done like breath work.
Diaphragmatic breathing?
Breath work. It's the same. Breath
Okay.
what I'm referring to.
I
Deep
think
breathing. And
it's fantastic. We actually had on our podcast my cousin who's a breathwork teacher, and it's fantastic. It's I love the fact that it makes it easier to get away from your prefrontal cortex and your thinking brain and go straight underneath to that stuff that is scary a lot of the times to get to and process and restructure stories. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's so interesting. So in martial arts, because when your adrenaline gets going, you're going to get hit in the face if you're not controlling it, right? So they try to do this, you do these exercises where you're getting used to that adrenaline rush. You want to get inoculized, basically it's inoculation. So the first thing you do is deep breathing. You deep breathe, even in martial arts, even right on the spot, you start these deep breathing exercises and you look side to side. So when you start to panic and you start to freeze, that's the first thing you do. Deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, and then look side to side, and it sort of breaks that tunnel vision. Because what happens is when your adrenaline gets going and you get panicked, your vision freezes, and your hearing changes, your vision freezes, and it just gets really complicated. And so that's one of the things that we work on with that, and that's one of the things we teach our patients as well. So I love that you guys work on that and you had some on your podcast. So let me ask you, what's your goal? You told me the goal with your podcast. It's really, you guys are trying to serve other people. And I love that. There's no better way to be happy than to serve other people. So how can people support you, and how can we support you on your podcast?
I'll take it. So how can people support us? I guess first thing is just, come in and listen to our podcast. Like we said before, we've had some amazing guests. We also do a little bit of just, me and Jeremy talking so we can kind of share our own experiences as well. Further than that, obviously, sharing the podcast, leaving us review. We love all that stuff. We have
Ninjas, right?
Yeah, the Social Ninjas podcast. So, we even have a little folder. I think we both individually do this of, any messages or reviews that we get from people, we have them saved up. So anytime we're going through a kind of time where it's do I really even have value right now? Just kind of look through that stuff. And it's well, okay, I am amazing. All these people are loving what I'm putting out. So really, it helps us a lot. So we love to hear that stuff. So yeah, anything I'm missing, Jeremy?
We actually just launched a Patreon.
You launched a what?
A Patreon.
What's that?
Patreon is just a monthly thing, and they get extra footage and bonus material.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah.
See, this is what happens when I love this though. You have a middle-aged mom and you got these 2 young guys, and so yeah, that stuff I'm not that cool. But we're all trying to do the same thing, right? So that's a really good thing. You guys will reach a different audience, and that's fantastic. So I love that. So it's the socialninjaspodcast.com if you want to leave Kyle and Jeremy a review. Go listen to their podcast. You can find Kyle at socialanxietykyle.com, Instagram at social_anxiety_Kyle, Facebook at socialanxietykyle, and Twitter at anxietykyle. You can find Jeremy, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Jeremy Talks to Strangers. I love that. If you guys are feeling depressed or your anxiety is clinical, you need to talk to a professional about it, you are welcome to call our clinics, the Amen Clinics, at 844-818-0616. We don't just medicate everybody. We teach you skills like what we've been talking about. We also have supplements, things like GABA can be calming, 5-HTP, saffron, amazing, head-to-head with Prozac. So really interesting studies on some of these supplements that are really helpful. And I'm so grateful to you guys. This is so awesome that you guys made this your mission. I'm really happy about that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for letting us come on and talk
had us
about
on. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
no, thank you for being here. Have a wonderful day. And I'm going to check out your podcast, and we're going to have you on our podcast.
Sweet. Sounds awesome.
All right.
Sounds good.
You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.
You as well.